Hey everyone, it's time again to recap the latest news from the solar PV industry, compiled by the American Solar Energy Society. I'm Jay Warmke with SolarPVTraining.com, and this is what's happening in the wonderful world of solar for the week of May 18th. Now, solar and wind accounted for almost 98% of all of the new electrical generating capacity added to the U.S. grid in the first quarter of 2025 and were the only sources of new generating capacity in the month of March. According to recent data from FERC, the Federal Energy Regulatory Commission, March 2025 was the 19th consecutive month where solar was the largest single source of electrical generating capacity on the U.S. grid, dating all the way back to September of 2023. For the first quarter of this year, solar accounted for 72.3% of new generating capacity. Generation from wind turbines provided nearly 25% of the nation's new electrical resources. Now, generation from wind accounts for 11.8% of the nation's electricity, followed by solar with 10.7%, with the inclusion of hydropower at 7.7%, biomass with 1.1%, and geothermal with 0.3%. Along with rooftop solar, renewable energy now provides over 1/3 of the total U.S. generating capacity. So to put this into perspective, 10 years ago, renewables only accounted for 16.9% of the power on the U.S. grid, with wind at 5.7% and solar at 1%. So thus, over the last decade, wind's share of U.S. generating capacity has more than doubled, while solar has increased by more than tenfold. The House Ways and Means Committee, their draft reconciliation package plans to step down the investment and production tax credits for wind, solar, batteries, geothermal, and other clean technologies after 2028 and eliminate them completely by 2031. This is 4 years earlier than was originally outlined in the Inflation Reduction Act of 2022. The proposal also tightens eligibility requirements on projects that they must be placed in service before qualifying for the credit. The Inflation Reduction Act, or the IRA, based eligibility on the year that the projects were actually began construction. Now, this is significant because delays in grid interconnection, as well as long lead times on electrical equipment, can often mean that there are a number of years between the time when the solar array is completed and the project actually begins to generate electricity. Now, most residential and construction tax credits for efficient home appliances, solar panels, electric vehicles, and EV chargers would be eliminated by the end of this year under this plan, and credits for electric and other clean fuel fleet vehicles would also end after 2025 if this proposal is adopted. A study released last Thursday in related news by the Clean Energy Buyers Association has determined that repealing these tax credits on clean energy would raise the cost of energy for consumers and industry across over 19 states that were studied in this document. The study, which NERA Economic Consulting conducted for SEBA, modeled the state-level electric markets, looking basically on incremental increases in demand due to the growth of data centers. And they looked at these both with the credits in place and removing those credits or these incentives. It found that from 2026 to 2032, the cost of electricity would increase significantly if these tax credits were removed due to an increased reliance on natural gas generating, a resource that is actually constricted in its availability. The study found that energy-intensive industries such as iron and steel, chemicals, cement, and aluminum would be hardest hit. 7 of the 19 states that were studied would see double-digit increases in the average household and business cost of electricity during the period. According to the study, Maine would be the highest hit with average increases of over 20% for households and 19.3% for businesses. And U.S. energy officials have found unexplained communication equipment inside some Chinese-made inverter devices, according to a report recently released by Reuters news agency. Reuters reported the presence of undocumented or rogue communication devices in a number of Chinese-made solar inverters. These could potentially introduce remote communication channels into these inverters by which someone could bypass cybersecurity firewalls that utility companies put in place designed to prevent hacking. Similar devices were also found in some Chinese manufactured battery systems. Inverters are highly digitalized products that are often referred to as the heart or the brains of a solar system. And in theory, the hackers could remotely disrupt, switch off the solar power supply if they took control of the inverter, resulting in power losses, blackouts, or even damage to the electrical energy infrastructure. The utilities that spoke to Reuters did not disclose the manufacturers or the number of products that they found these rogue devices within, but energy analyst Wood Mackenzie noted that the Chinese firms of Huawei and SunGrow actually dominate the utility scale inverter marketplace with over 50% of the global inverter market in 2023. And that's the news from the solar industry for this week. We'll see you next week.